The most revealing thing about Meghan's anniversary post this week was not the 24 photographs she chose to share. It was the photographs she chose not to share. Because when you look carefully at what was missing from that carousel, who was absent, which relationships were quietly erased from the public retelling of the day, you start to understand something specific about where the Sussex project currently stands. Not from what they say, from what they leave out.
She has censored the royal family from it. It's as if the royal family weren't there.
This is actually a more interesting lens than the usual coverage of Sussex content, which tends to focus on what they did or said or posted. The silences are more revealing than the statements, the absences more telling than the presences. And this particular anniversary carousel, with its 24 carefully chosen images and its equally carefully chosen omissions, is one of the most readable pieces of Sussex communication in a long time. Precisely because it was not meant to be read analytically. It was meant to be felt. Tonight we are going to go through the carousel exactly the way columnists Alison Boshoff and Tom Sykes reportedly did, image by image, absence by absence. And we are going to ask the question that nobody in the friendly press seems to want to ask directly. Who did Meghan decide did not belong in her memory of the most photographed day of her life? And what does each missing face tell us? Because there is something specifically interesting about an anniversary post where the curation itself becomes the story.
Things haven't been good for some time between Doria and Meghan Markle, have they? It's been very obvious in Doria's couple of brief appearances on Meghan's media projects that she's just not interested. She doesn't like being dragged into the spotlight and used in the same way.
When most people post wedding throwbacks, they are not thinking about what the selection communicates strategically. They grab the ones where they look good, where the people they love are visible, where the day looks the way they remember it. But when someone with 4 million followers, a professional communications background, and a brand built on carefully controlled image releases puts out 24 photographs, every single one of those 24 is a considered decision. And the decisions in this particular carousel are striking. Let's start with the obvious one, Doria Ragland. On May 19, 2018, Doria sat alone in the front pew of St. George's Chapel, the only member of the Markle family present at the wedding. She arrived in a soft blue Oscar de la Renta outfit, and the cameras caught everything. Tears during the ceremony, the proud smile, the moment she held Meghan's hand outside the chapel afterward. Broadcasters around the world describe the mother-daughter dynamic as one of the most emotionally resonant storylines of the entire day. Commentators called it quietly heartbreaking and beautiful. A woman who had raised Meghan alone, watching her daughter marry into the British royal family. Doria has been central to the public Meghan story ever since. The Netflix series featured her prominently and warmly. Interviews over the years have described her as Meghan's best friend, her biggest support system, the constant presence during some of the hardest periods of Meghan's life. The closeness between them has been one of the most consistently and deliberately emphasized elements of Meghan's personal brand.
Best man William has become the invisible man. He's not in any of Meghan's pictures, nor is Catherine, the Princess of Wales, nor is the late Queen Elizabeth or the late Prince Philip, Anne, Edward, you name it, they're not there, nor are any of the galaxy of stars who went there as well, who attended that wedding.
In a world where so many other Sussex relationships have visibly cooled or complicated, Doria was always the one that looked genuinely unshakable. She does not appear once in the 24 anniversary photographs, not in the preparation shots taken before the ceremony, not in the emotional moments during the service, not in a single candid image from a day her mother was physically present for, visibly, in front of the entire world. The official wedding photographs from Alexei Lubomirsky exist in their archive. Some of them have already been published. The world has seen formal portraits. Meghan had access to every frame from that day, and she chose none that included the woman she has publicly called her best friend. Boshoff reportedly approached the omission carefully in her analysis, but the conclusion most observers reached independently was the same. This was not an oversight or a simple editing decision. Every image in a 24-photo anniversary carousel is deliberate. Each one was looked at, selected, and approved before going live to 4 million followers. When the person you have publicly described as your closest relationship is absent from your curated retelling of the most important day of your life, that absence is communicating something specific, and the question worth asking is what?
The amount of photos that she put just made her really look like kind of an insane narcissist. There were a lot of just her. And that one photo that you were just talking about is such a bad mistake.
If Palace Insider is giving you the full picture that other channels skip, go ahead and hit the like button. It genuinely helps us reach more people. Now let's talk about King Charles. On the morning of the wedding, Charles, then Prince of Wales, was informed at the last minute that Thomas Markle would not be attending. He made the decision to step in and walk Meghan down the second half of the aisle at St. George's Chapel, in front of the entire watching world, on one of the most high-profile broadcasts of the year. Royal commentators at the time called it one of the most significant acts of welcome the royal family had shown a new member in decades. Think about what that moment actually represented in real terms. A future king, altering his own planned role in the ceremony at the last minute, stepping in for the absent father of a woman he had known for a relatively short time, doing it without hesitation in a setting where every gesture carries institutional weight and global visibility. British newspapers called it a symbol of Meghan being genuinely embraced by the family.
Well, it's interesting because you would have thought that somebody who had been there on that day, Serena, Oprah, the Clooneys, Priyanka Chopra.
Yes, she's
even
another
Elton John,
one.
even Elton John, who she actually put a picture of him up. The only celebrity that she put a picture of, because of course she wants to tie herself again to Diana. None of them said, "What a great day," or "Wow, what a magical wedding," or "I still think about it." No one said anything. And it is just getting quite sad. And again, you kind of are like, oh, girl, knock it off.
The image of Charles walking beside her in that corridor is one of the most reproduced photographs from that entire day. It appeared on front pages and in broadcast packages for years afterward. It does not appear in the carousel. No image from the aisle. No acknowledgement of the gesture. No frame from one of the defining emotional moments of the entire coverage. As if the moment and the man never existed in Meghan's memory of the day. Then there is Queen Elizabeth. She approved the ceremony location. She approved the carriage procession route. On the morning of the wedding, she officially granted Harry and Meghan the Sussex titles. Her presence and institutional endorsement were what made the wedding globally historic. A royal wedding is a royal wedding specifically because the monarch sanctions it, attends it, and confers the titles that define the couple's place in the institution. Without all of that, it is simply a very expensive private ceremony. None of that appears in the carousel. No queen. No moment with the monarch who made the day what it was. No acknowledgement that the most powerful person in British public life was present and welcoming. William and Catherine attended the ceremony. Their children George and Charlotte were in the wedding party. Their images were among the most shared from the original 2018 broadcast coverage. Tiny children in formal dress. A visual centerpiece of the day. Not in the carousel either. The entire Wales family, whose children participated in the wedding itself, quietly removed from Meghan's public retelling of her wedding day. Subscribe to Palace Insider and drop a comment below. Which absence do you think speaks loudest? The pattern, when you see it laid out clearly, is specific. The photographs Meghan chose to share feature her almost exclusively. Solo shots in the Givenchy ceremony gown. Dancing alone in the Stella McCartney reception dress. Arms raised, like she is the only person in the room. Quiet poses in hallways. Glamorous preparation moments. Multiple kisses where Harry is present but the framing still centers Meghan. Emotional solo frames. The spotlight, in image after image, stays almost entirely on Meghan herself. Alison Bossoff reportedly sat down in Cannes and counted every single image, and she was not the only one doing it. Tom Sykes, who had just returned from Geneva that same morning, also broke the post apart image by image. Both of them were asking the same question. Given what Meghan had access to, given the day that existed, what does it mean that this is the version she chose to share? Critics describing the overall feeling of the carousel used the word lonely. Not tragic, not dramatic, but carefully polished in a way that felt strangely solitary for an anniversary post about a marriage. An 8-year marriage. On a day attended by some of the most famous people on earth and formally blessed by the British monarch. The resulting 24 photographs look, by multiple accounts, less like a joint memory and more like a solo portrait session that happened to take place at a royal wedding. The one recognizable celebrity face in the entire 24 images was Elton John. and even that detail became its own story. Alison Boshoff reportedly noted that Elton's long-standing personal relationship has historically been much closer to Harry than to Meghan. That it is, in her phrase, a Harry relationship rather than a Harry and Meghan relationship. Which means the only celebrity Meghan included in her public retelling of the day is someone whose bond is primarily with her husband rather than with her. That detail is small but telling, because the celebrity world that showed up to that wedding in 2018 was extraordinary. The Clooneys, Serena Williams, Priyanka Chopra, Oprah Winfrey, Idris Elba. People who attended that day because the event was a major cultural moment and because association with the Sussexes at that point carried real social value. Where are they now? The Clooneys, by multiple reports, have been seen considerably closer to King Charles and the monarchy in recent public appearances than to Harry and Meghan. They attended that wedding in 2018. They were photographed at it. They are now publicly appearing at events connected to the institution the Sussexes left. David and Victoria Beckham, who were also at the 2018 wedding and were once viewed as part of the glamorous celebrity circle around the couple, have reportedly cooled dramatically on the Sussex relationship. They have been seen publicly closer to William and Catherine at events in recent years. Serena Williams, long described as Meghan's most genuine and enduring celebrity friendship, someone who defended Meghan publicly even during some of the most difficult Sussex controversies, has gone noticeably quiet in recent months. Oprah Winfrey, whose connection to the couple became one of the defining media stories of the post-royal era through the 2021 interview, said nothing publicly on the anniversary. Priyanka Chopra, whose friendship with Meghan was extensively covered during the height of her royal fame, also said nothing. The anniversary carousel, when you see it through this lens, is not just a wedding album. It is an inadvertent map of the current Sussex social world. One celebrity visible, almost no family present. The royal institution that made the day globally significant quietly erased from the public memory of it. And the husband whose name is on the post appearing only briefly in a collection that centers almost entirely on the wife. The anniversary carousel, when you read it through this lens, is not just a wedding album with some faces missing. It is an inadvertent map of the current Sussex social world. One celebrity visible, and his relationship primarily with Harry, rather than with the couple. Almost no family present. The royal institution that made the day globally significant quietly erased from the public memory of it. A husband whose name is on the post appearing only briefly. And the wife, solo, dancing alone in her reception dress, posing alone in corridors, standing alone in frame after frame of what was one of the most attended and widely covered royal events of the modern era. What makes the Boshoff and Sykes analysis compelling is not that it requires any particular interpretation of motive. You do not need to conclude that the omissions were hostile or calculated. You just need to look at the selections and ask the simple question, of all the photographs that exist from that day, why these 24? Why are these the ones that represent 8 years of marriage? And who is missing from the story they tell? The answers, when you sit with them, are more interesting than any of the other controversies that surrounded the anniversary week. The British Airways card controversy required speculation about what was pre-arranged. The kitchen controversy required local sources in Montecito. The Harry podcast contrast required connecting two moments that happened months apart. But the carousel analysis requires nothing except looking at what Meghan posted and asking who is not there. The absences are public. Anyone can count them. Tom Sykes reportedly described the Sussexes as having squandered every last drop of goodwill through precisely this kind of exercise. The post was not offensive. It was not aggressive. It was simply self-focused in a way that undermined the message it was supposed to send. An anniversary post that erases almost everyone else from the memory of the day ends up being less about the marriage and more about the person doing the curating. Now here is the detail that royal commentators say makes the whole week even more uncomfortable. Because it is not just about the photographs. It is about something Harry said very publicly just 7 months ago that sits in very specific tension with what Meghan posted this week. In October 2025, Harry appeared on Hassan Minhaj's podcast. The conversation moved to social media, digital culture, and what they would do when their children eventually asked for phones and internet access. Harry's response was striking and specific. He described major social media platforms as evil and wicked. He spoke at length about how these platforms aggressively shape young people's thinking for profit, designing products with the explicit goal of maximizing engagement regardless of the harm that engagement causes. He sounded genuinely concerned. not performing concern for an audience, but speaking with the focused clarity of a parent who has worked through the question and arrived somewhere uncomfortable. That clip circulated at the time and then faded from the news cycle. It came back this week, loudly, because of what Meghan posted on Tuesday. Because in the same week that Harry was being quoted warning about the dangers of social media culture, Meghan was posting a 24-image anniversary carousel to millions of followers, complete with audio of their children singing Happy Anniversary, a bronze penguin gift on display, curated personal details from inside their home. The contrast was immediate, and it landed hard. Harry publicly cautious about social media. Meghan building one of the most public personal brand moments of the year on the very platforms her husband described as wicked. Supporters argued Harry's comments were about the dangers for children specifically, not a blanket rejection of social media use by adults. That reading is fair and it should be acknowledged. But it did not stop the conversation from spreading, because the contrast in public posture between the two of them has been quietly building for months, and this week made it visible in a specific way. One of them sounds like someone who wants to step back from public life, who is becoming more cautious about what is shared and with whom. The other sounds like someone who wants to expand the public presence, more content, more followers, more personal detail, more curated access to the marriage and the family. Both of them are presenting the same marriage to the world, but they appear to be doing it with different ideas about what that presentation should look like and how much of their private life it should include. That tension, sitting visibly inside a 24-photo anniversary carousel that was supposed to communicate love and unity, is perhaps the most specific thing the post revealed. Not what the photographs showed, what the gap between them suggests. It is worth asking what a genuinely consistent Sussex public position would actually look like, because right now the two of them are presenting very different public relationships with the same world. Harry sounds like someone moving toward privacy, toward caution, toward stepping back from the digital culture that has shaped the past several years. Meghan sounds like someone doubling down on it. More content, more curation, more personal detail shared with more followers. That divergence might be entirely managed and deliberate, but it does not look managed. It looks like two people who have not fully agreed on what the next chapter is supposed to be. There is also an upcoming moment worth flagging. In just over 2 weeks, Peter Phillips, Princess Anne's son, the late Queen's eldest grandchild, is expected to marry Harriet Sperling at All Saints Church. Senior royals are expected to attend: King Charles, Queen Camilla, William, Catherine. Princess Beatrice and Eugenie have also been appearing more frequently at official royal engagements recently, suggesting the wedding could become another visible show of family unity around the institution. Harry and Meghan are not expected to attend. That absence, arriving so soon after the anniversary carousel, will sharpen the contrast that critics are already drawing. The royal family photographed together at a family wedding. Harry and Meghan not there, and the public retelling of their own wedding day with the royal family quietly removed from the photographs. There is also an upcoming moment that will sharpen all of this. In just over 2 weeks, Peter Phillips, Princess Anne's son, the late Queen's eldest grandchild, is expected to marry Harriet Sperling at All Saints Church. Senior royals are expected to attend: King Charles, Queen Camilla, William, Catherine. Princess Beatrice and Eugenie have been appearing more frequently at official royal engagements recently, suggesting this wedding could become another visible gathering of the family around the institution. Harry and Meghan are not expected to be there. That absence, arriving so close after the anniversary carousel, will produce the precise visual contrast the carousel itself implied. The royal family photographed together at a family wedding, Harry and Meghan not in the room, and the public retelling of their own wedding day with the royal family quietly removed from the photographs. The contrast will not need any commentary. It will make itself. Step back and look at what the 24 images actually communicated, not intentionally, but structurally. No Doria, despite years of public emphasis on that relationship being the most important one in Meghan's life. No Charles, despite the aisle walk that once generated its own headlines and was described at the time as one of the most significant acts of institutional welcome in decades. No Queen, despite her presence and formal endorsement making the day historically significant in a way nothing else could. No William or Catherine. No George or Charlotte, despite the Wales children being visible participants in the wedding party. One celebrity, whose bond is primarily with Harry rather than with the couple. Multiple solo shots of Meghan in both gowns. A carousel that reads, to a significant and growing body of observers, Less like a shared memory of a marriage, and more like a carefully controlled single-person brand presentation that happened to use a royal wedding as its backdrop. A wedding album without the bride's mother is the kind of omission people notice immediately and instinctively. A wedding album without the man who walked you down the aisle is the kind of omission people notice. A wedding album without the monarch whose sanction made the day possible is the kind of omission people notice. Audiences noticed all three within hours of the post going live. And the conversation that followed was not the conversation the anniversary post was designed to start. There is also something worth noting about the Harry podcast angle specifically. His October 2025 comments about social media being evil and wicked were not made in passing. They were a considered, extended response to a direct question about how he thinks about digital culture and his children's relationship with it. He sounded like someone who has genuinely worked through the question and arrived at a place of real concern. That is not the tone of someone whose wife is simultaneously building one of the most public personal brand presences on Instagram. Those two positions can coexist, but they do not coexist easily. And the anniversary week put them side by side in a way that was very difficult for observers to ignore. The most revealing thing about those 24 photographs was always going to be the gaps. What was left in tells you what Meghan wants the world to see. What was left out tells you what she wants the world to forget. And sometimes the things people most want forgotten are the things audiences find most interesting to look at. 8 years on, a day the world watched live, attended by the British monarch, walked by the future king, formally blessed by the institution that gave the couple their titles and global significance, celebrated by celebrities whose names are still globally recognized, and the curated public memory that Meghan chose to release on the anniversary contains almost none of them. Instead, 24 frames, mostly solo, and the quiet structural suggestion that the most important person at that royal wedding was the woman posting the photographs 8 years later. Do you think the omissions in the carousel were deliberate image management? A conscious decision about which version of the marriage Meghan wants the world to remember? Or do you think people are reading too much into what was simply a personal, unanalyzed selection? There is genuinely no settled answer to that question. Drop your take below, subscribe to Palace Insider so you do not miss what comes next, and a like genuinely helps us reach more people who want this kind of analysis. See you in the next one. The gaps in those 24 photographs said more about the current state of the Sussex project than any of the content they chose to include. That is the real story of the anniversary week, and it did not require a single leaked document or hostile source to tell it. Meghan told it herself, one carefully selected image at a time. One final thought. The conversation this anniversary week was not really about the photographs themselves. It was about what they reveal of the gap between the public Sussex story and the private reality. The public story has always been about love, family, authenticity, and connection. The 24 photographs posted on the anniversary told a different story, of a woman photographed almost entirely alone at a day attended by hundreds, on an occasion meant to celebrate 8 years of marriage.